Okay, so thank you all very, very much again for joining in the 2023 Wasatch Wildlife Watch field season. It's amazing that this year is our 6th year of study, and it really is impossible without each and every one of you. So a huge shout out to everybody that's involved in this year's field season. For this video, I'm going to walk you through the project schedule and the study area for the site. So again, if we just go back to our overview and look at where we're headed for these different training videos, this one's going to focus on the field schedule and the study area. And so it's going to get a little bit more nitty-gritty on how you're actually going to address every single week within the study and when you're going to be setting up, checking, and taking down each individual camera site. So to get into the expectations for field work for this particular field season, it's a 15-week commitment. And so what that means is that you will be signing up for sites and you'll be assigned 3 different sites. And it is expected that you're going to complete the rotations of all 3 of those sites. And the sites are organized so that each rotation is set up for 5 weeks. And so across the 3 sites, it does equal a 15-week commitment. And then within each individual site, you're going to do a setup, a check, and a takedown, which means you'll be completing 9 different data forms across those 3 different rotations. And so let's kind of walk through what that's going to look like with the hypothetical site that we have for this year's field season. So in this particular site, we have 3 different rotations. This looks like it is the mouth of Mill Creek or Cottonwood Canyon. And so we have rotation 1, we have rotation 2, and we have rotation 3. And the way that the vast majority of these camera sites are assigned is that your lowest elevation site is your rotation 1, and your highest elevation site is rotation 3. And that tends to correspond with snow melt. We want it to be as easy as possible to access these sites. And so we're going to organize it that way. So typically when you're assigned your 3 sites, and if you put them into Gaia or whatever GPS app you're using, you'll typically notice that your first rotation is going to be lower in elevation than your third. But each one of these are going to be set up in subsequent orders. So you'll go rotation 1, rotation 2, and then rotation 3. So the way it works is for week 1, you'll do your setup. And for all of these different rotations and throughout the check, setup, and takedown, you're not expected to do it or complete that setup or that check or that takedown on one particular day. You're going to be given an entire week to complete those different tasks. And so for the setup for rotation 1, it's not just going to be needs to be done by May 7th. We're going to give you the entire week, May 7th to the 13th, to find any day in that week that works to set up that camera. Then you're going to have a week pass, and then on the 3rd week, you'll go out and check that camera site. So between May 21st and May 27th. And then again, you'll have a week pass before taking down that camera site on week 5, which is June 4th through June 10th. And so that can get a little bit confusing. So we have basically a little bit more of a breakdown right here. So let's say we're dealing with rotation 1, which is the first site in whatever canyon we're assigned to. The very first week of that rotation is your setup week. So you have, in this particular case, from May 7th to May 13th. That is going to correspond with you locating the best site for the camera. So you'll be given your GPS coordinates. You're then going to find the best site to set up your actual camera within a 100-meter radius of those coordinates. You're going to set up that site, and you're going to fill out that first setup data sheet. Then on week 2, you don't have to worry about doing anything. You're just going to continue on and let the camera gather the data for you. And that's going to be May 14th through May 20th. Then on the 3rd week is when you're going to complete the check. And so that's going to be May 21st through May 27th. And a lot of people ask, like, is the check necessary? It absolutely is necessary. You would be surprised at just the number of times when you go out to your check and find that something's malfunctioned with your camera. And without those checks, we potentially lose out on that data. So in this particular case for rotation 1, the check is from May 21st to May 27th. And it really is simply a check. You're going to check the batteries. You're going to check the SD card. You're going to fill out the data sheets. And if everything's good and running, you're going to reset it up. If there are any issues, you can either contact me or you can try to troubleshoot it right there on the fly. And then again, just like you did after setup, you're going to let it do its thing for 2 weeks, so you don't have to do anything on week 4. And that's May 28th through June 3rd. And then on week 5, you're going to go ahead and take down rotation 1. And so from between June 4th and June 10th, that means completely recovering the camera, filling out a data sheet, checking and potentially replacing the batteries if needed, and then checking and definitely replacing the SD cards so that it's ready for rotation 2. So here's a breakdown of how the entire field season is going to go. So I walked you through rotation 1, where you can see the install is this week. The check is the May 21st through 27th, and then the takedown is June 4th through June 10th. What you'll then notice is it goes directly into rotation 2. And so instead of, like with rotation 1, only having 1 week to set up the camera, you actually have 2 weeks to set up rotation 2. And the way that works is that a lot of people, once they're done setting up rotation 1, that very same day want to set up rotation 2, and that is entirely valid. So if your cameras are close enough, or if you're up for it, you can totally set up your second site the same day you take down your first site. And so that means you would get the entirety of the takedown week for rotation 1 to set up rotation 2, but then you also get an additional week to set up rotation 2 as well. So you actually get from June 4th to June 17th to establish the site for rotation 2. Then following the setup, it goes in the exact same order as the first rotation, where you take a week off and then check that on between the 25th and July 1st, and then you take another week off, and then the takedown occurs July 9th through July 15th. Then, just like with the previous rotations, rotation 3 works the exact same way. So you get 2 weeks to install the site, then in the next 2 weeks you check the site, and then the very last week of the study, August 13th through August 19th, is when you'll take down that final site. Okay, so thank you very much for participating. That was the schedule for this year's field season. And again, we couldn't do this without you, and your participation really does matter. All of the good things that have come from this project are in direct result of the amazing field work and participation of all of the people that are working on this project. So thank you again.